Hey guys, Shane here from Pocket Knife Review. Gonna do a video today, talk about something everybody hates to talk about or loves to argue about, and that's blade steel. A lot of us started out with knives like this and these, what we hate to call it, but cheaper blade steels. These budget blade steels, ACR 13 MOVs of the world, and some of us are still in that realm, and that's just fine, man. Not everybody needs a super steel. Not everybody needs a knife that'll hold an edge through 1,000 feet of cardboard. However, most of us have moved on past this point. And the thing about blade steel is the more expensive you get, seems like the more controversial it gets. There for a long time, we were all perfectly happy with something like a 154 cm that held a good edge for a good long time, and then, once again, it became just like everything else. It became not good enough, and people wanted the next best thing. And unfortunately, what happened was the budget knife world caught on to this and then flooded us with D2. Now, we're all already sick of D2. We're tired of seeing it. We're tired of hearing about it. We want everybody to move on from it. Truth is, guys, D2 is a fine steel. It holds an edge about the same amount of time as 154 cm. It's not far off from S30V. With a really good heat treat, it can be even better than those. However, with these cheaper Chinese-made knives, you don't typically get that really good heat treat. You get a lot better heat treat when you get into good reputable companies and spend a little more money, like this ProTech. I've had no issues with the edge retention on this knife. But like I said, guys, as the price grows, and as more importantly than that, as the hype grows, the controversy grows even bigger. And take this knife right here. This is QSP Pelicans in S35VN, which just a couple of years ago was a super steel. We were all perfectly happy with S35VN, even though it got no better edge retention than 154 cm did. It's no better edge retention than 14C. As a matter of fact, a lot of 14C outperforms S35. I apologize for not having any 14C on the table right now, guys. I just realized that I don't own any 14C right now. I'm going to have to fix that because I love 14C. That being said, what's come out recently and has gotten really popular is M390. I want to take a second to talk about M390. Some of you have heard me joke about M390 being the D2 of the expensive knife world, and that's because it is. The reason I say that is not because it's a bad steel. It's because it's hard to heat treat and hard to get it right. The majority of the M390 on the market is no better at edge retention than S35VN. The difference is the majority of that M390 being sold that is no better than S35VN is being sold at 2 and 3 times the price of S35VN. Guys, there's edge retention charts out there on the internet. I'd be more than happy to provide you with the links. These guys are literally giving themselves arthritis to do these tests and try to help us not waste our money, and very few people are paying any attention to them, and I just don't understand it. Like I said, it's not that M390 is a bad steel. M390 is a super steel. It's a really good steel. The issue is you have to get it from a reputable maker who's doing a good heat treat, like this Olamic Wayfarer. Olamic does an excellent heat treat on their M390, and I would be willing to say that the edge retention on this knife versus this one, this thing probably holds an edge 3 times, possibly 4 times as long as this knife. However, there's a huge price difference, so keep that in mind. But that is relative, because a lot of guys are paying 3 times this price for a knife with M390 that also has poor edge retention and not an optimal heat treat. The key is, guys, is that if you're going to buy super steels, you need to be buying them from reputable sources. I know this is a little tiny knife. This is a Spyderco with a 20 CV blade, which compositionally is the same as M390. And this knife holds an edge for a super long time. It's because the heat treat was done right. You'll start to notice a theme when I'm talking about good heat treats. The majority of them come out of the United States. That's just the truth. That's not me bashing Chinese knives. It's just been proven and tested over and over again. And that's just the result. Majority of good heat treats coming out of the United States. If you want to move a little further past M390 as far as edge retention goes, there are some super steels out there that just keep getting better, and edge retention is just that much more superior. You get into stuff like S90V, S110V. I've heard guys complain about these steels, about them being chippy, about them being fragile. I've not experienced that. However, when I bought this knife, upon looking at it and inspecting it and studying it before I bought it, I realized this is a thin, slicey, almost fragile blade. It's not. It was never intended to be hard used. It was never intended to be stabbed through a wall to see if the blade would break or not. So I haven't had those issues because I use this cutting tool for what it was made for. I cut things, I slice things with it. I don't baton with it. Haven't had any issues with it being chippy or it being fragile. And then, guys, you can move on even further past this when it comes to edge retention. There's some steels out there. I'm sure you've heard of them. The guys are calling tool steels. You got stuff like M4, and you got stuff like Rex 45 and K390. I don't have any K390, but the reason they call these tool steels, guys, is because these steels were not intended to be knife material. These steels were made and cooked up in the head of some metallurgist for tooling. And by tooling, what I mean is they were made to make the parts that go inside of a die in a machine shop that presses, cuts, stamps pieces of metal into various products that we buy, from the fender on your car to your toaster, the door on your oven. These steels are made to bend, shape, and cut those metals. So they have to be very tough. They have to hold an edge, because they're doing that under tens of thousands of pounds of pressure. And the only way that can be done economically is if these steels last. That being said, it turns out they make a great blade steel. They hold an edge for a very long time. They can be very tough. However, they're typically not corrosion resistant. In a machine shop, that's not an issue. Typically there's some type of petroleum-based cooling product soaking it all the time. But in your knives, guys, if you get into tool steels, you got to maintenance them, guys. You got to keep that blade oiled. If you use it for something, you need to wipe it off immediately. You're going to start to get some patina. If you don't like that, you get these dark splotches all over your blade, and some people think that's ugly. But one thing I do love about these tool steels is how aggressive these edges get. I thought this M4 I had experienced was about as aggressive and scary an edge as a knife could have, until I ran across this guy in Rex 45. This knife was loaned into me. It's still on its factory edge from Spyderco, guys. This thing hasn't been touched, and it's the only edge I've ever been scared to even rake my thumb across. It is just that aggressive. These knives these blade steels are just incredible if you like a lot of edge retention and you don't mind maintaining your blades. A lot of us are buying these steels, guys, not because we need them. The majority of us do not need the edge retention that these knives can provide. We're buying them because of the hype, because it's the new popular thing. We want to be able to get on Facebook and Instagram and say that we've got this knife and the latest super steel, and there's nothing wrong with that. Guys, if it makes you happy, do it, because I do it. It makes me happy. But in a real world situation, as far as what these steels were intended to do and what they actually do, are they worth the money? To some people they are. To some people they're never going to use them to their potential, so it doesn't even matter. So, when you hear these guys hyping up these knives that are from a company that doesn't do an optimum heat treat, man, it's fine. If the knife makes them happy, let them buy it, let them fidget with it, let them enjoy it. But if you're looking for something that's going to hold a great edge for a long time and get you through a hard day's work of cutting tough materials, then by all means, get you a well heat treated super steel. You won't regret it. Majority of those well heat treated super steels are coming out of the United States. I'm not ashamed to say that. I love buying US made. I love supporting the US workers, and they're just doing a better job. Anybody that wants to argue that can argue it somewhere else, because my mind has been proven. I've seen it time and time again. So that's all I had for you guys today. Like I said, I'm not a metallurgist. I don't know everything there is to know about steel compositions or heat treat protocols. I just know what works, what I've tested and what I've seen tested, And that's the information that I'm bringing you today. And I appreciate you spending your time with me. And that's all I got for y'all today. Peace, and I love y'all.